Well, if anybody wants to join, we can talk about things. Otherwise, I won't. I won't stay long. Sure, there's a football game. I don't. Oh, there's somebody. I'm just coming back on in case people want to discuss anything. Otherwise, we don't have to further distract you from Sunday night. Um, I tried to put my microphone back on, and I'm a little confused why it's not letting me. Anyway, we'll just the mic won't be just as good as it normally is, but that's just life. It's life. All right. I saw some negative comments on there. I assume they were either they could be angry investors, but it also could be the shorts. What I think is going to be happening, I think what's going to be tomorrow for CAUD, I think there's going to be this announcement. I think is going to be significant. It's going to show one that the company has excellent leadership, a vision, and is going to execute on the plans that they've stated all along. The criminals, that's what I think they are. I don't think there's anything normal about what happened. But they're going to have a choice. Do we cover or do we sit here and accrue losses? I don't think they're going to be able to fight to the downside the way they have in some of our other stocks, simply because the float is so small. It can't be hidden. It can't be hidden. Any expectations here? Let me just click. Any expectations for Finger GTII? I think I'll answer GTII first. I think there's some strong. I'm going to sneeze. I think there's strong shareholder activism going on right now in GTII. And if that's successful, I think it's going to mean meaningfully better results for shareholders. My question on GTII is it going to happen before the end of the year? If I had to vote on that, I would probably give it a 50-50. And we're already into what, December 10th? So we're quickly approaching the time that people leave their desks, go on vacation, and all that. So I'm a little concerned there'll be some tax loss selling in GTII. That doesn't mean anything bad about GTII. There's going to be tax loss selling in, MULN, MMAT, CLNV, COSM, VOCL, probably Logic and what else? Anyway, you can think of the names better than I can. There's going to be advisors saying, well, you might as well take your tax loss. Well, that doesn't reflect anything on the underlying value of the stock. That's just a decision to take losses to offset gains, or take losses to offset future gains, or to take losses to offset income over time. It's a perfectly good strategy. What happens, it's called the January effect, is usually 30 days, 31 days later, people want to be in that stock, they buy it back. So anyway, I'm not being negative. It's just that I feel like GTII is in sort of a holding mode. Why? Another reason. I think the action's going to be with Finger. Now, all the same cautions apply. We're coming to the end of the year. Finger has, uh, at least for some people, losses they may take by the end of the year. And are bankers or deal makers going to get things done by the new year? I don't know. But I continue to believe that the momentum we saw in Finger wasn't just we, it was somebody else in those past months. It slowed down now, no question. And maybe that's because of a lot of us pulled back. I don't know. But I think the September 11th announcement or filing of a shelf registration with Univest's name in it, they may not use Univest, but it gives a clear indication. And the sub-filing of 25 million, I think it gives a clear indication. And of course, later, Finger Motion said we're not raising money down at these levels. Well, what I expect is there's going to be some sort of corporate action. If I had to guess, normally investment bankers have portfolio companies or their mind is going, there's somebody they've met on a trip or a company they've been following a long time. They figure we can put these two companies together, these three companies together, and we can raise money from China Telecom or from Munich Re. I think something like that's coming for Finger. I don't think I don't have an expectation for tomorrow, but both of those companies you ask about, Rich, the potential exists for, I can't do it. Momentary, one day change in direction, change in sentiment, change in outlook, and you could get a rush of money coming in to them. Now, I was looking at Finger this morning for an investor, and it was interesting. The market cap on Finger is 217 million. I didn't look this morning. But I'll do it myself because the one place I looked last time had a $4 million market cap for CAUD. I don't think that's the way to look at it. They don't really have debt. They have 13.5 million shares outstanding. So I suppose you just multiply that by 1.8. That's 24 million. And I think the revenue projections for Finger and for Collective Audience, CAUD, in the near term, fairly similar. In fact, CAUDs are higher than Fingers over, let's say, for 2023, although this quarter has to have slowed things down. And maybe over the next 1 or 2 quarters on an annualized basis. However, Finger Motion to me has this just sleeping giant, and it's not even a sleep, feel for it because you've got Munich Re and Pacific Re monetizing their laboratories, their science of how they're going to use the data collected to monetize insurance and reinsurance in the world's biggest by population economy. And that's enormous. And then you've got the 5G rollout in China, which is taking effect now. So you're going to have Apple Care. I just bought a new phone and I took the Apple Care $9 a month. Thank you very much. I've never done that before, but I did it. That is mandatory on 1.5 billion phones. and Finger has a percentage of that. They don't do anything for that. They're there. If their customers do it, they get 20. That's what I heard, 25% or maybe $25 a year per customer. Massive margins. That's there. Their relationships with the three Chinese telecoms. Um, that's going to continue to bring revenue in just in a almost treasury bill way in terms of safety and predictability, at least the way treasury bills used to be. And that's just growth, that just compounds. And then you add this, God, I can't pronounce it, Jeju Industries, which is the Netflix of Southeast Asia, 100 million users. That would be an interesting area for Finger Motion to acquire, is outside of China per se, in Southeast Asia. Growing economies, huge populations, everybody has a phone. They're leaping past landlines, leaping past newspapers, leaping past televisions. Everything's done, even banking, everything's done on the phone. So that would be interesting. So anyway, Richie, that's a long answer. I think Finger has just enormous future revenues and profits ahead of it. Just enormous. That's my opinion. No, he didn't all in. We didn't talk about it, and I think that's to not being distracted. But he has talked about. I don't. I wonder if I have. I've printed it out, but I don't think I have it here. So I've shown it before. You'll just have to take my word for it. But a year ago, Logic announced that they were going to sell the shell at the time of the DSPAC to a company which they did not disclose called Privco, private company. That had a valuation of $250 million. Of course, at the time, there was about 60 million shares, just under 60 million shares outstanding. Well, they let that one expire because they had all these candidates coming in, and they selected a second company. I received indications that that second company was going to be basically double the size of the first one, basically. But the share base expanded, right? So in the first instance, it was going to be worth around 40, 50, 60 cents a share. Because of the share expansion, I think you could only increase that to 50, 60, 70 cents a share to our potential interest. Well, what I've heard now, that deal took too long. And it was, the lawyers just took forever. And what I understand, and I cannot confirm, I did not hear from Brent, is that the other side, the acquiring company in company number two, Bachelor number two, signed everything finally once their lawyers made sure that they proved how smart they were. That deal has also been superseded, apparently, by another potential buyer. I don't know who it is. They buy the shell. The last time All In Brent was on last week, he said that he has had, and you can go replay it. He's had companies ranging from $500 million to 750 million. That's my memory. You can listen to it. Coming to him, offering to buy that shell, and they're sifting through those now. So the bad news, All In, because we all want to look at the bad news, don't we? Is that by looking at a third company, if that third company came to agreement with uh, Brent, I guess, what matters to us is just two moving parts. One is what's the price, what's the size of the company? What's the size? Because it'll be listed. The goal to buy the shell is to list it on NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange. So the only the two data points we're concerned with, how big is it going to be? What's it going to trade for? And the other question we have is what percentage do the shareholders, us, we, get of that company? And I don't know those numbers. Brent said 10% on the last call. I asked him, could it be as high as 15%? He said, sure. It's a negotiation. It can be as high as 15%. It can be between 10 and 15. Conceivably, it could be higher. If you have more than one company bidding on your asset, obviously the deal gets better for us. So that's one thing. Secondly, so if you want to be negative, we don't know those numbers. We don't know who it is. I don't know. The other aspect, if you want to be negative, and we're all in this negative experience. I had a shrink tell me once that the human psyche can only think forward with what it's experienced over the last 2 years. That's basically what you've experienced for 2 years is how you look forward. Well, that's not a really good method of judging investments. And I think we're all a bit shell shocked by the criminality. I've been encouraged. It's the second time Brent has mentioned, and he's been a banker for a long time. He started in the business in the same decade I did, exact same decade. We were 4 or 5 years apart. I think that's right. Yeah, something like that. 4 or 5 years apart. So he's skills. He's self-effacing, but he knows what he's doing. So anyway, the other thing all in to be negative about, if you want to be negative, they may not announce anything for months, or they may announce something, but it's an LOI that's non-binding. So you'll read it and you'll go, oh, it's non-binding. That's just like GTII and the law firm, and it's So there's plenty to use our shell-shocked PSTD of the last 18 months, 2 years to judge everything in a negative way. But at some point, and this goes to lose vision or lose insight, which I share. But it was his alone. I didn't talk to him, but I've seen it for a while myself. But he saw it, has acted on it, has tried to teach you. I think Lou's going to be right that there's going to be an opportunity in the over-the-counter markets and the small caps to make outsized gains as this all turns in our favor, and I think it will. But anyway, there'll be more to be revealed there. I think the selling's going to continue from a tax law standpoint, and from a criminal standpoint, and from a legitimate short standpoint. That sets up an opportunity if you're willing to use what you know. Everything's been announced several times. You know it's coming. If you can take a deep breath, it sets up an opportunity, I think, for a trade and for really good returns. What a great movie. Hmm. I won't. I know Willie won't. Thank you very much, Charlie Mack. There should be a song with Charlie Mack in it. Thank you guys. Yeah, happy Sunday evening. Merry Christmas is the season now. So, and happy Hanukkah, I think. I looked on the calendar. I think I saw that Hanukkah already started. So happy Hanukkah. Yeah, 2023 was emotionally tough. It was tough for me, and you saw it sometimes. I got spanked when I went out to the truck for that interview, and I also, I think, pushed myself too hard. I I got really run down in such a way that my body was. I Anyway. I think I got sick for I don't know 2 or 3 week period there, so it showed up. It was emotionally tough for me. MMTLP has been a it's I've used the example before, but it's they're telling us, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? It's right there in front of us. They sold stock that doesn't exist. They counterfeited shares. The number I hear is 600 to a million to a billion. I've heard it from so many sources that I can say I'm repeating many sources. I don't know what the number is. Call it half a billion. Half a billion shares sold of MMTLP that don't exist, and Congress does nothing. Gary Gensler, glib Gary Gensler, does his finger dance in front of Congress. He's obviously reasonably intelligent, can't help himself but try to show off. He says, "No, I don't know anything." And then he starts talking about it as if he really does. Congress, Senate, the regulators, the broker dealers, journalists, professors, they all point at us and say, "Who are you going to believe? Us or your lying eyes?" Well, it's right in front of us that they robbed us blind. And I think because of the hard work ocean sailing of people like Busy Brands, this guy Patrick, and the statue, I always forget her name, and Junk Savvy, and Pedro Philly, and uh, uh, Not Legal Advice, and Big JR, and the lawyer in Florida, Mona, uh, Ama. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm not remembering her name. Amazing work. The lawyer named Howard, um, and then just hundreds, thousands of people. Jennifer from the north, um, uh, LT, uh, Han, uh, Father Guido Sarducci, so many people. And then breakthrough of all breakthroughs, Anna has just done tremendous work. I didn't listen to her space call. I tried to get on it. I'm not going to repeat what I know because just in case I'm not supposed to say it. But if that space call was about the breakthrough that I think it is, oh my gosh, ocean sailing. It is going to be ocean sailing next year for all of us. I still go back and forth in my head. Should I try to move my shares from my retirement account to AST? And I'm so undecided, but I expect a settlement, and I expect a considerable settlement. My numbers have always been high. Partly, I believe my numbers, but it's also intentionally, although I got uh, blessed out on one call, I never did a campaign to get people to buy MMTLP. I talked about it, I think, the day before and bought some myself at $8. But she got all angry at me. I did apologize and I was sincere. But I use high numbers because I don't want the criminals or the scheming lawyers or the cowards and quislings that are on the side of the criminals in our spaces to use low numbers. That's my bias. Yeah, I think it was implied clearly that Brent is going to buy more shares. Um, I gave you this list the other day. I should put prices on it, but um, I think Finger remains a buy. And this isn't financial advice. I'm just ranking them, rating them, uh, and possibly the number one buy if there's tax loss selling or at these prices. If you have a framework for, let's say a quarter or two, worst case, um, in my judgment, uh, I would rate that as speculative buy, maybe a little safer than that. My number two would be CAUD. It's $2. Brent talked about, and he's right as he was talking, in the retail space, $2 is a marginable number at many brokerage firms. So they're fighting to keep it under $2. Why? Because if it goes above 2 and stays there, people can use margin accounts to add to their positions, and that starts to snowball in the opposite direction than they want. They also are going to be subject to for failures to deliver, failures to locate. The float is so small. They can't bamboozle their back offices. So there's a potential that the buying algorithms come in and overwhelm the selling algorithms. And the news is going to be good. I think tomorrow's news is powerful, but I think there'll be news after it and after it and after it. I just talked about logic. I think I don't know. I'm trying to give my ratings. So I would see CAUD as a high risk buy right now. $2, it could go to $20, $25, $30. It was 38 if there's a miniature squeeze. On the other hand, maybe it just goes to 7, 8, 10, 12, 15. That's a nice trade. And I would treat it as a trade. Although I'm not saying it wouldn't be a smart 18-month hold. I think the target on CAUD over 18 months, 2 years, ceteris paribus, $50 a share. $50 a share. Finger, I think, it could be the holding in your account. That could be $100 stock before you return your mother-in-law's phone call. Logic, I think I would put it high risk because we don't know the timing, and I think they're going to try to get it under a penny. On the other hand, if your mindset is I can wait till the Q1, Q2, what's a better time to buy something when it's on sale? That's a trade. That's a trade to me. And if it works, don't hold out for the last numbers. The other ones I've put, and I want to try to get people on to talk on here. These are my ideas as January effect buys. As other people are selling, as we go end the year, let's see if we have some trades. Then my number one thing to buy, and I'm going to try to get people on this call. I was hoping we'd make huge returns. Unfortunately, I'm going to blame it on COVID, but everything in our lives is speeding up. Not, the shutdown. Everything is speeding up. Every prediction that I've been worried about is speeding up. I'll give you one. I'll show you a picture just to prove it if we come on tomorrow. I thought at Fukushima Daiichi that public opinion would prevent them from dumping tons, huge structures worth of radioactive water into the ocean. They did it. They did it. And about 3 months ago. And what's washing up on shore in Japan? Dead fish. Massive dead fish. That's an example. The dollar. The UAE is pricing oil in local currencies. Putin went to see MBS in Saudi Arabia. You don't have to read it very far, the tea leaves, to understand that for whatever reason, from the Popinjay to Folks to the real estate developer to the aging in place president, whatever impression we're giving to the rest of the world, they're willing to move in other directions. It's going to change our lifestyles. It's going to change your wealth position, and it's going to change your future. Now, there may be some blessings. Maybe there'll be, debt you owe will over time be less onerous. But the number one thing to buy is silver. Number one. And I wish we had had a successful trade, but the number one thing is to buy is silver, physical silver. Sprott Physical Silver Trust. But anyway, we'll talk about that. I'm really intrigued by CNLV. That's a Frank Benedetto stock. But I have to do a deep dive on their financing. You see what happens. MMAT is a good company, but the board fired the CEO. The board did not listen to outside advice. They listened to their attorneys, and they took a disastrous financing just now. They destroyed that company. It will not, MMAT will not be a viable place for shareholders to make money. It's going to get wiped out. And then the technology will transfer to China or Malaysia or Stevie Cohen. Someone will take it. That might be what's happening at CLNV. But I love the mission of CNLV. So anyway, I look at that. GoLogic, I don't want to talk about it, but it's a similar story to what we're experiencing, but it's so cheap. And then Wolf, it's not as cheap as it was, but Wolf makes sense to me. But they had that punishing financing. I think they might be beyond it. And the other one that I like is HNRC. I'm a little nervous about it because I saw in their filings for WDHI, sorry, for their purchase of Pogo, 40% of Pogo, they used benchmark investments or something. Well, Benchmark is who introduced finger motion, maybe vocal, but they introduced finger motion to the smiling faces at Lynn Partners for the slaughter. So it makes me nervous. And the stock is trading as if it did a toxic financing. On the other hand, they sold they sold some non-core assets for 15 cents a share, and they may distribute that, or they may issue. If they do that, that's a great investment. On the other hand, he is thinking of doing it as a stock dividend. Well, a stock dividend would play into the hands of toxic dilutive sellers. Anyway, that's my list right now. I may add to it. Of course, Finger and GTII are on it. Anyway. Yeah, he's been purchasing, and I think he's going to buy more. And I think, Mark, I don't know this, but I think once the quiet period has ended, and once Peter Boards is announced tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised to see himself and other people on his team potentially buy. But I think more importantly, his Rolodex. I mean, listen to this. I mean, this recent board member, Elizabeth DeMars, she was CEO and president of creditcards.com, which she created. And then she sold the company to Bankrate for 145 million. She was the president, CEO, and chairman of the board of TheStreet.com. She turned iLife into Bankrate and turned it around, driving exponential growth, and created $450 million in shareholder value. She spent a decade as chief marketing officer for Bloomberg. I had a friend in my office named Bloomberg. I always called him Blumberg. He was a big guy. He's a good guy. Played football, but he was a good guy. Always kept his word. We were in Cairo, and we were going to the pyramids, and he slept in. We'd been drinking, I guess, and jet lag, and we had two vans lined up, and we're all from what's now Morgan Stanley, and at my friend's wedding, and most of us are there except Bloomberg. So I just kept saying, hold, let me call him. And I didn't know him that well, but I kept going to the house phone and calling. This before cell phones, and calling up to his room. Oh, I'd like to just go without me. Well, I kept doing it. I said, let me do it one more time. And he grumbled and he said, all right, I'll come down. So I made everyone wait for him. And he came down. He's, like I say, he's a big guy. He got in the van sort of near me. I was on the other side. And as we were driving, we got to the pyramids. He reached out and grabbed my shoulder and said, thank you very much. Well, there was an Egyptian that was trying to get me to buy a cartouche, which he wanted me to trade my leather jacket for his cartouche and his perfumes and crap. And I was trying to be a person of my word. I met this guy early in the morning, and I guess I had told the story maybe at the bar the night before. But early in the morning, I had to meet this guy. He's a big guy too, and he brought this one or two of these, right out of the movies type strongmen behind him. And I was meeting in the lobby or just outside, it was just outside the hotel. And I said to myself, shit, I'm in trouble here. I had money in my uh, 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 pocket. I had the leather jacket they wanted, my passport. I said, I'm in trouble. Well, amazingly, just amazingly, Alan, sorry, I shouldn't have used his first name, but he came up behind me and he grabbed me or touched me on the back and said, "Bill, you need any help here?" And the guy negotiating with me said, "Oh, you brought your friend to negotiate?" And he said, "No, no, no, no. That's between you two. But let me take your two friends over here and let me talk to them." So he took the two friends away. I negotiated back with this guy, and I didn't. The cartouche, the cartouche, instead of saying Peter, my brother's name, it said Ramses the Second. I didn't know how to read that, but uh, uh, maybe that's what was happening. I had the Ramses the Second, which said Peter, and my friend Sari said that doesn't say that. That says Ramses the Second. So maybe that was the negotiation. I can't remember. Anyway, this guy was a good guy. Banks in China are in trouble. Uh, I don't think it'll hurt Finger, but it's a good question. Um, I'm Mike. I'll answer it two ways. Um, I don't think. Just think in your own life, if your car got repossessed or if your credit card got frozen, you'd still use your phone. And I think that'll still go in China. But what might hurt them, and it already is hurting them, this perception on Wall Street that you shouldn't invest in anything related to China. We're probably under this president who ran like the woman before him did with the boogeyman that the game show host would get us into war. But it's likely, it's possible, it's the risk is there that we'll go to war with China over Taiwan. So the whole China patina is not very good for Finger. But no, I think Finger's going to be fine. Is let me go to the bottom and then back to the top. Well, you should. It's up to you, and this is slowing down, so I'll try to answer as many questions before my computer freezes. Uh, uh, I would put them in for all shares, but you can go high. You can go at different prices. You can always change them. But by putting a GTC order in, your firm will not lend out your shares or rehypothecate them. Um, Thank you, Susan. I appreciate all of you too. I appreciate how you guys give me leeway uh, to be intemperate sometimes. I'm not always good at this, but I do appreciate the that everybody comes here to try to make a I hate the word community, a collective. It all sounds so communist, but anyway. Um, uh, yeah, I like Groucho too. Um, I love the scene where he sits down with the large woman and has dinner and champagne, and they bring the bill to him. And he said, "This is outrageous. $13." He hands it to her. I wouldn't pay it if I were you. Joker on 60 Minutes. I didn't know that. What do I think about rumored $200 a share settlement by MMTLP? Um, I think that'd be a good deal for the criminals, and a good deal for Wall Street as a system. I think that if it's true, I think it's high enough that most of us would do it. What would I do? I'd be tempted to take that number. I hope it's higher because I think it should be 600, 700, 800, 900. But the problem is, all in, is that a net number or are the lawyers going to take 50% of it? But if I got $200 net to my shares and it happened quickly, it'd be a tough call because you're getting liquidity. It might be fair. I told you the other day, all in, I haven't seen an engineering report. I think the I think the projected potential reserves must be higher than 5 billion barrels. But the last information we have is something like 3.2 to 5 billion, something in that range. But what we don't know is how it breaks down on proven, probable, and possible, and moose pasture. So we don't know the four P's and how, we just don't know that. So 200 might be fair at this moment in time, but I will say, I believe that that I believe that I believe that Nextbridge is worth a lot more than $200, and probably pretty soon. And in a bidding war, I think it would go for more than $200. So it'll be a tough call. Yeah, yeah. She's she's great. They would know it. I think they know it. But I don't know that each person, Jay, that you talk to would know it, but somewhere they know it. Well, uh, I've traded in my account, and I got hurt in finger, by the way, the options. But I also made some money prior to it. But I got hurt 2 months ago. But I think we'll make, Ham's not going to quit. We're going to do our best. I've talked about finger already, and I'll do it. Who asked me here? I'll do more of it, but not now because I already did it and my computer's about to freeze. Rosa is her name. Rosa. God bless her. I'm sorry to have misspoken. Yeah, I agree. The knowledge, the education. I've been really amazed by how good all of you are, how smart, um, and Wall Street hasn't taught you all this. A lot of it's like learning a new language, but once you learn it, you don't forget it, and they're not going to be, you know, fool me, fool me twice. We're not going to be fooled again. All right, I'm going to go to the bottom just in case this is going to freeze. Yeah, ocean sailing. There's an interesting question, ocean sailing, about inflation, because I lean towards inflation. But, but the whole purpose of expanding debt, which is why I think we're in so many wars right now, and I think debt is going to 50 trillion, the announced debt, is to inflate the economy. But if you have debt contraction and defaults, maybe that's deflation. I I can argue both sides of it. But in any event, precious metals will do very well in either situation. Well, Lou, I think Lou has a good pulse, um, a good measure of the pulse of the market. I've thought that he has uh, access to information that most people don't, which is a strength, and he shares it with you. It's one of the reasons, by the way, that the coincidence of COSM always struck me painfully. But that's one stock. I could be wrong. And it's yesterday, and we're in America. And, uh, it's always what's today and what do we look to the future. He may well be right. And, I think he has a sense of um, the trading desks, the shorts, and he has access to me. He has access to people on the phone that tell him what's up. So I think that's good. Well, don't stay short oil too long. Don't stay short oil too long. That's a trade. That's not an investment. Long on end phase. Wow, good for you. Um, my computer's freezing. Yeah, the banks are in trouble, and the banks control the government. And I mean, just go back to my brief discussion of Fukushima Daiichi. President Folks just poured money, trillions of dollars into the banks and the hedge funds. At that time, that was March 11th, 2011. If President Folks had sent $1 trillion American know how to Fukushima Daiichi, $1 trillion, we could have contained it. But he says, folks. Well, I don't trust. I'm gonna have to end this. I'm I'm gonna end this after I answer this question. So I'll wish everybody peace, love, and happiness, and we'll catch you tomorrow. My computer, I've just got to get a new one. I don't trust any of the numbers out of the government, but I do think the market's going to go higher. I do think they're going to prop up the economy. Even if the numbers are false, the numbers we see will be strong. I think it's going to carry all the way through until Joe Biden wins the Democratic nomination. Then, then I think the super delegates will pick Hillary Clinton. And I think in one of the most honest, transparent, and fair elections, Hillary Clinton will be elected our president. Okay. I apologize if I missed your question. Thank you for joining. I apologize for missing any questions, but my computer's going to freeze, so I'm gonna end it here. Blessed night to everyone, and we'll catch you down the road. Won't even end now.